Clink. The sound of gold hitting mahogany echoes through the room. Harold looks directly into the lens, his eyes sharp behind thick glass. 60 years of marriage isn't a success story. It's a miracle because we didn't quit in 1964. Black and white photos flash across the screen, a lace veil caught in the wind, a grainy smile, a cake being cut by shaking hands. Most people think love is a soft pillow, but it's actually the grit of sand in your shoes after a 10-mile walk. It is the smell of burnt toast in a cramped kitchen, and the heavy silence of a house that feels too small for two people who are angry. In 1964, the walls felt like they were sweating. We had $3 in a jar and a radiator that hissed like a snake all night long. My hands were stained with engine grease, and her eyes were tired of looking at the same cracked ceiling. We stayed. We stayed because the cold weight of the ring on my finger felt more real than the urge to walk out the front door. You don't find a soulmate in a field of flowers. You build one out of the friction of living until the rough edges finally smooth out. It is the steam from a shared cup of coffee at 5 a.m. when nobody has anything left to say but hear. The clink of this ring on the table isn't just metal meeting wood. It's the sound of 60 winters that tried to freeze us out and failed. Don't look for a spark that lights up the sky. Look for the person who will help you carry the heavy logs when the fire starts to die. Clink. Your thumb hovers over the screen, scrolling through a life that feels like it's slipping through your fingers. You're building a ledger in your head, a heavy book bound in leather and old grudges. Every time they forget the milk or use that sharp, jagged tone, you ink a new line. Denise warned us about this. If you're keeping a mental list of everything they do wrong, you aren't just venting. You're holding the pen that's already signing your own divorce papers. You can feel the cold weight of that list pressing against your ribs like a stone in your pocket. It's the sour taste of a lemon in the back of your throat every time they walk into the room. Don't wait until you're 80, sitting on a porch with bones that ache like rusty hinges, to realize that these small, stinging paper cuts are what's bleeding your love dry right now. The friction of the ring on your finger should be a spark, not a blister. You think you're waiting for them to fix it, but the clock on the wall is just counting down the moments until the silence becomes a permanent resident in your house. Put down the pen, burn the ledger. The air in the room is thick with the words you're choking on, and it's time to breathe again. Stop looking for the exit sign and start looking at the calloused hands of the person who is still standing there, waiting for you to drop the list and hold them instead. Harold told me there's a sentence, a single string of words from his daughter that ended a 30-year war in one heartbeat. I'll give you that sentence in a moment, but first you have to smell the poison sitting on your own dinner table. It's not a loud explosion, it's the screech of metal fork against a ceramic plate in a room where the silence is so heavy it hurts your ears. It's the way the air in the hallway feels like cold, damp wool whenever you pass each other. You're carrying your grudges like a jagged stone in your shoe, limping through your own life and wondering why your heart is blistered. Harold and his wife lived in a house made of invisible wire. Every conversation was a tripwire. Every look was a door bolting shut. They were two shadows sharing a bed of frozen sheets, their skin never touching even when they reached for the same lamp. The poison is the "I'm fine" that tastes like rusted pennies in the back of your throat. It's the way you hold your breath when they walk into the room, waiting for the floorboards to creak under the weight of everything you haven't said. You think you're protecting yourself by building these walls, but you're just building your own tomb. Then their daughter stood in the doorway. She didn't yell, she didn't beg, she just looked at them, two people who had spent decades sharpening their tongues like kitchen knives. She looked at Harold with eyes that were too old for her face and said, "I'm tired of mourning two people who are still standing right in front of me." The war stopped. The knives dropped, because in that second, the silence finally broke, and they realized they weren't winners of a long war. They were just survivors of a self-made wreck.
Monday morning starts with the smell of coffee left too long on the burner. It's a bitter, scorched scent that sticks to the back of your throat. Outside, the neighbor's lawnmower is a dull, steady roar, a sound of a normal life happening somewhere else. Inside, the air is heavy and stale. You sit across from each other at the small wooden table. The silence isn't peaceful. It's a physical weight, a thick fog that makes your lungs feel small. You pick up a metal fork. It scrapes against the ceramic plate with a sharp, piercing screech. The sound is a lightning bolt in a room made of glass. Neither of you looks up. You just focus on the grains of rice on your plate, counting them like they're the only things that matter. You reach for the salt, and your fingers almost brush against hers. You flinch. You pull back like the air between you was an electric fence. We always wait for the big explosion to tell us things are over. We wait for the screaming match or the suitcase by the door. But that's not how the heart dies. Marriage doesn't break because of a bomb. It wears thin. It mourns away. It's the crumbs on the counter that no one wipes away for 3 days. It's the gallon of milk you forgot to buy, even though it was written in red ink on the list. It's the way you stop saying good morning because the words feel like dry sand in your mouth. It's a slow, steady erosion of two people becoming strangers in the same hallway. You ain't winning a war. You're just two ghosts haunting the same kitchen, staring at the floorboards and waiting for someone to finally turn out the light. We thought the poison was a lie or a secret. It wasn't. The biggest mistake wasn't luring someone else into our bed. It was the math. We fell into the trap of fairness. We turned our marriage into a cold metal calculator. I'll scrub the grease off the stovetop if you fold the stiff, warm towels. I'll drive the carpool if you handle the bills. We aim for exactly 50-50. But here's the thing about a 50-50 life. When you're constantly checking the ledger to see if you're getting your fair share, you both end up bankrupt. You stop being lovers and start being debt collectors, waiting for a payment that never feels like enough. You're standing in the kitchen, gripping the edge of the counter until your knuckles turn white, wondering why you feel so empty when everything is technically equal. Then the floor fell out. Our daughter was sitting on the rug, the scent of a strawberry shampoo drifting up as she colored a lopsided house. She stopped. She looked up with eyes that saw right through the performance. She didn't ask if we were getting a divorce. She didn't ask why we were quiet. She just whispered, "Dad, do you and Mommy actually like each other?" The question was a jagged piece of glass. It cut through the layers of fairness and duty we'd built like armor. I looked at her, then at the woman across the room, and I realized we had spent so much time being fair that we had forgotten how to be kind. We were winning the 50-50 war, but we were losing the only thing that mattered. I grabbed that mental calculator and threw it into the trash can, listening to the hollow clang of metal against plastic. No more scoreboards, no more ledgers. If you want to save the house, you have to stop being a debt collector and start being a partner again. Burn the math. Give everything you have left in the tank, even when the needle is on empty, and stop looking for a receipt. Then go find the person you used to be. Reach into the back of the dark closet, Pull out those salt-stained running shoes or that dusty camera bag and feel the weight of your own soul in your hands. You can't pour from an empty cup, and she can't love a ghost who only talks about the electric bill. When something hurts, say it immediately. Don't let the words sit in your mouth like a bitter copper penny until they turn into poison. If a tone stings like a splash of ice water, tell her right then. A messy truth is always better than a polite lie that rots your floorboards from the inside out. Next, keep the chase alive. Put on the shirt that makes you feel dangerous. Take her to that dive bar with the sticky floors and the flickering neon lights, and remember what it's like to flirt over the roar of the crowd. If you stop hunting for her heart, the cold world will freeze it solid. And finally, look at the mountain of laundry and the stack of overdue bills. That's the monster, not her. Stand shoulder to shoulder until your sleeves touch and you can feel the heat radiating off her skin. Lean into the wind together. It's you and her against the chaos, or the chaos wins every single time. Grab a hand, feel the steady pulse in her wrist, and realize you aren't rivals fighting for a bigger slice of the pie. You the only two people on the boat, and you gotta row in the same direction, or you're both going under. The gold band sits on the scarred oak table, catching the dim kitchen light. It's thin now, worn down by decades of gripping cold steering wheels and scrubbing grease off porcelain plates. You pick it up and feel the cool metal against your thumb, a tiny circle that holds the weight of every whispered apology and every midnight fever. This ain't just a piece of jewelry. It's the anchor that kept the boat steady when the waves of life tried to flip you over. You look across the table at the woman who saw your ghosts and decided to stay anyway. You see the steady pulse in her neck and the warmth in her tired eyes. Harold reaches out, his rough skin brushing against the wood as he touches the worn metal. He looks at the dents and the dull finish, seeing a lifetime of holding on through the silence and the storms. Harold says, "In 1964, we put this ring on. Today, we finally understand why." He lets it drop. Clink,